yes, there are new roadblocks, but everyone is still doing the same thing that they were going to do. Like, they're still going to bias toward the cheapest electrons. They're still going to build the solar installations that are the fastest to build and deploy. It just might take a tiny bit longer.
Hi, everyone. We're here in Vegas at RE+, one of the biggest clean energy events in the US. In a challenging policy environment, what are developers, utilities, and decision makers doing to manage risk and plan for a net zero future? We're going to talk to them all this week to find out. I'm Sylvia Leyva Martinez, and I'm a research director at the energy data and analytics firm Wood Mackenzie. Bienvenidos. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Coming up, we'll be bringing you the key conversations and debate from the energy industry's meeting of minds. If you can't make it, don't worry. We've got you covered. This week, we'll be releasing some special episodes of the show to give you all the key insights from leaders in cleantech and climate finance. One of those leaders is Molly Wood. She's the founder and CEO of Molly Wood Media, a climate solutions media company and host of Everybody in the Pool, a podcast for the climate economy. Molly is a former writer and broadcaster at CBS, The New York Times, and a host on the radio program Marketplace. Now, she invests, connects, and educates on all things climate tech. Molly, welcome to the Interchange. I'm so excited to have you here.
You're so kind. Thanks for having me.
So you did the opening session, you moderated a panel. So tell me a bit about how these first few hours of RE+ have been going.
Yes, I did a little bit of a keynote presentation about where I see the future going from my kind of weird perch in Silicon Valley and all of the hopeful ways that technology is going to get us through this moment, and all of the ways in which, you know, the energy transition and the transition to clean energy is not only possible, but better. And then I did a wonderful panel with an energy developer and utility executive who both assured me that thanks to AI and data centers, the net zero goal, the net zero dream is dead. In the short term, at least.
Why?
Okay.
Like, I would think like everyone is talking about how data centers are helping have more renewable energy on the ground. So that posture is kind of controversial. So why is that?
I mean, I may be overstating their position a little bit, although not entirely. I mean, I think that, you know, what you are likely to hear around the show is that everybody's load forecasts are just completely wrong, right? They've spent a decade forecasting 1% to 2% growth in demand for literal power. And now I think Pedro from Edison said that they're looking in some places at 30%.
Oh my God.
Demand increase. And it's a combination of electrification of consumers and buildings, but it really is a lot of AI and data centers. And so what I was surprised to hear from both of them was that they may build new gas capacity.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's not surprising that they'll keep existing gas capacity online, but it is a little bit surprising to hear them say we may need to literally build new natural gas infrastructure because without a mix, we can't get there any other way. And at least that will take coal offline.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we have definitely heard from clients at Wood Mac, at the podcast that we have discussed this time and time again. So not entirely surprised about that. But how are you seeing it? Like, what did you present in your keynote presentation?
So what I said is that my experience is as a 25 plus year technology and business journalist. So I've seen many kind of tech cycles come and go. And the feeling among climate investors now is that we are at a technology tipping point. We're at the point where, you know, and I'm sure that your clients are telling you the same thing. We're at the point where the cost, the technology, and the demand have converged in a way that historically has led to huge change, like the iPhone or the internet, right? Or the mobile revolution. We're at that point with quite specifically battery technology. And that we're also at a point where there's nothing that gas can do that electricity can't do better. And so if we're building new gas capacity, we're building a duplicate system that is dirtier and more expensive. So what I said was, we 100% have the technology to do this. And if we don't, and even if we want to build new natural gas capacity and frankly, even solar capacity, we may get to a point where the hyperscalers, the big tech companies, Google and Meta and I guess Alphabet, Meta, Amazon, where they say, we're not going to wait. Yeah. We're going to do this ourselves. We're going to become utilities, or it will take you 10 years to build a natural gas facility. We're going to build a small modular reactor in the same time and create a power island and put 6 data centers on it.
Yeah, it's a wild time. And it's funny because we're seeing this dynamic, like on one end, you have the new demand that is coming from electrification, AI, data centers, but then the policy environment is not necessarily the most favorable for renewables. And at this point, it's only that. It's like because the technology is already there. We have already reached very low cost for renewable energy. So it's interesting to see how the market is going to be navigating these opposed dynamics. And how do you think that is going to be addressed over the next few days at RE+?
So I was very interested. So Ray Hanger from Copia answered this question in a really interesting way. And what he said was that, yes, there are new roadblocks, but everyone is still doing the same thing that they were going to do. Like, they're still going to bias toward the cheapest electrons. They're still going to build the solar installations that are the fastest to build and deploy. It just might take a tiny bit longer. And so what he said was, even though I've now portrayed both of these wonderful men in this negative light by saying our net zero dreams are dead, both of them said, and especially Ray from Copia said, I call them my patient pants. When I travel with my son, I say we have to put our patient pants on because we're going to be in a really long line.
Yeah.
And he basically said, I'm going to be patient. I can wait this out. I can wait another 1,000 days. I have the same plans that I always had. And I'm going to wade through the regulatory environment that exists now. I'm going to jump over the relatively small hurdles that now exist. If you're not on federal land, is one thing that he said. If you're on private land, he said most of our projects are. You can still get it done. Yeah. And I think I hear the same thing from startups and investors and corporate America even, where most of them are saying, we're committed to the same goals. We're just using different words to talk about them.
Actually, could you tell me more about that? Because it seems like there has been this transition from, reaching net zero, decarbonization, now it's energy dominance. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the will and the want to develop renewable energy is still there, but the messaging around that has shifted a lot over the past few months. So how have you seen it?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like it's a hat trick. It's that 3-card Monte game, where you hide the card and you can never find it. And in this case, the card says net zero goals or, climate change on it, but it's exactly the same game. It really is. And I think it's a messaging change. It's a narrative shift. And you can say energy dominance with full understanding that economics are an immutable law. Mm-hmm. Yep. Like, you're gonna go for the cheapest thing. And the cheapest thing is still renewables. It's the cheapest and the fastest.
Yes.
And increasingly, because of the price of battery storage, it's also the most reliable. And so you just maybe call it something else for the short term.
Yeah. And that's why we have been hearing more and more like energy independence and energy dominance. And that's the way to think about renewable energy deployment. And probably is going to stay like that for at least a few more years.
And honestly, it's not the worst messaging either. No. I mean, it really, because we have seen, I think, over the years that messaging that's purely focused on climate change or sustainability or renewable or green energy hasn't always worked. And it has come with, it is whether it's deserved or not, there is a barnacle of sacrifice attached to the messaging about renewable energy.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad idea to be more honest about what it really is, which is the cheapest, best, safest, cleanest, and most dominant source of electricity and power that we have.
Totally. And I remember when we first talked, you mentioned like how to talk about the climate crisis in a time of crisis. I think like this second part has been key over the past few months. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it may end up forcing a good change, which is more precise, more mainstream, more sort of broadly acceptable language about renewable energy or clean energy goals. But I think there's no question that even though the investors that I talk to are not retreating, They understand that we are at a tech tipping point. Experienced investors in particular who have seen these kinds of big shifts in the past and who are like, the math makes sense here. The innovation and the cost and the market demand just tell me that this is, I have one investor friend who calls it an unavoidable opportunity.
Okay, interesting.
And also, they may be looking more toward climate startups that have more AI in them. And they may be rebranding themselves as energy investors. And they may be talking about siting and permitting. And I don't actually want to minimize it. I mean, storytelling is everything.
Yes.
And so we are seeing those stories shift, but I don't think that we're seeing the commitment shift. If I felt like the money wasn't happening, I'd be a lot more worried. Now, more of the money is going to Europe on a percentage basis than it used to, or than might be going to the United States in the short term. But honestly, I don't care who gets us there, as long as we get there.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned like the things that are not changing. You mentioned a bit about the investment going more to Europe. What else is changing? Like, we already talked about the messaging. I have the impression from the development perspective is more a shift towards projects that can get done now just because of the policy drivers, and maybe just holding on projects that are at early stages. What else are you seeing shifting in the market?
Yeah, interesting. I think from the venture capital and private investing side, I see something very similar. I see less, and this has been a shift that's coming over the past few years because, of course, there was like a big boom, in sort of 2022, 23 in climate tech investing and private investing. And you really did see some, you could argue, medium to poor decision making, which is the job of venture capital, honestly. Like, it's risky capital.
Exactly. Someone takes that risk.
Yep.
So
and screw up 99% of the time and make all your money on one investment. It's a weird model, but that's the goal. But we did see VCs funding like bench scale R&D, really lab research that was not commercialized, was not even close to commercialized, and was going to need so much interim financing to ever make it to market. And that isn't the job of VC.
Okay.
Like, we should at least have a business model attached. And so you see, so I'm happy to see the former CTO of Meta not looking at novel microbes for synthetic fertilizer. Like, it is okay with me if he's looking
take a risk, but not that much.
Right. That's just maybe not your core competency. Like, go crazy with an AI solution that optimizes distributed energy resources. Like, fine. And so what I'm seeing is like investors find their lane a little bit more, and that's good for the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, totally agree. And you have a podcast of your own, Everybody in the Pool. So what should we expect in the podcast over the next few episodes?
Well, I'm actually, so with this in mind, because the best way to do research is to interview someone for your podcast.
Yeah, totally agree.
So with this conference in mind, actually, I'm just right now in the middle of a little series on grid modernization and power, energy storage, battery technology, which I can never get enough of. Like, apparently I can talk about dendrites all day now because I am just that kind of nerd. And, innovative solar technology that you literally print with like a wine label printer and stick on the Coldplay tour. So I'm really doing a deep dive, if you will, no pun intended, on how we produce, distribute, and consume energy.
That's exciting. And this is kind of linked to my final question. Like, what are you looking forward the most to during RE+? I would assume part of that is the interviews that you're going to do, which sound really exciting. But anything else that you have in mind?
I mean, I'm just excited to sort of immerse myself in people who are doing this day to day. I think that this world, like, I was actually really happy to see an energy developer say about Pedro and Edison that utilities are like a weird black box that it's hard to understand. He's like,
yes,
that
has been the consensus for a while.
Right. And so I just want to eavesdrop. Like, I know what I'm seeing in my world, in my weird little bubble of Silicon Valley, arrogant weirdos and nerds. But I really am excited to talk to people and try to overhear conversations about what's happening for real in their world, because I am humble enough to know it's not always the same thing.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the next episodes of Everybody in the Pool, and I encourage everyone in the audience to listen to them. And Molly, thank you so much for spending these few minutes after your session with us. I'm really excited to have you here again, and I'll see you around the conference.
Thanks, Sylvia. I appreciate it. I'll look for you.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any of the special episodes that we're recording live right now from Vegas at RE+. See you tomorrow.